Hello, everyone. My name is Thanos Dimadis. I'm the Executive Director of the Association of Foreign Press Correspondents in the United States. And I have the pleasure to have this today in this current educational program hosted by the Association of Foreign Press Correspondents, two executives of PepsiCo Labs. Jenny O, who is the General Manager of PepsiCo Labs, and Jenny leads Commercial Tech Venture and Innovation for PepsiCo, and Anna Faberov, who leads the PepsiCo's engagement with cutting-edge technology solutions. This program has one major purpose. From the one side, on the one hand, to understand how the PepsiCo Labs work and what is the purpose of them, and how, on the other side, interact with several partners on the tech industry, startup companies, and what is the utmost goal? What are the challenges and what are the innovative approaches applied in this process? I would like to start with you, Jen, and then with you, Anna, for a little bit about your background, your personal background, and what is the scope of your role. And then I would suggest to watch a video so this can be an introduction to what will follow as part of our conversation. Jenny.
Sounds great. So hi, everyone. My name is Jenny O. I lead the commercial arm of PepsiCo Labs, which is our tech venturing and innovation group. I've been with now Pepsi for about 18 years. I started in the global M&A group doing acquisitions and joint ventures globally, and then moved across a number of strategy, finance, innovation, strategic initiative roles. So I joined PepsiCo Labs about 4.5 years ago as we were really starting to stand up this capability globally. Prior to my life at PepsiCo, I started in management consulting, worked at Bain & Company across Australia, which is where I grew up, Asia and the US, and then spent a few years in private equity up in Boston.
Thank you, Jenny. Anna?
Hi, good morning, everyone. Well, it is morning for me. My name is Anna Faberov, also PepsiCo Labs. I joined PepsiCo 5.5 years ago to build PepsiCo Labs because that was the dream job and an opportunity I couldn't say no to. And prior to that, my background, similar to Jenny, also finance strategy background. I spent most of my career in CPG, on the business side, and then led investment and strategy for a large holding company, and kind of now mixing the two with PepsiCo Labs.
And I assume you are both serving one major purpose related to PepsiCo Labs. Could you define this overall purpose, mission, Jenny?
Yeah, I think we're going to roll the video in a minute, but essentially what we do is we bring emerging tech startup solutions into PepsiCo, where PepsiCo is on a massive digital transformation journey, which is touching every part of our value chain. And as part of that, we're working with the emerging tech startup ecosystem to really, in a targeted way, find the right emerging tech solutions to bring in to help us transform the way we do business.
Anna, would you like to add something before we watch the video?
Yeah, I think if I had to build something, I would say disruption is not easy, right? Disruption is a must for all big companies. It's been a great focus for PepsiCo. Transformation, or however you would call it, but it's very, very hard, especially for global CPGs, like for global, big, massive companies. And Jenny and I focus on really enabling that transformation. So how do we remove barriers? How do we remove some of the redundancies? How do we work faster with those emerging startups that have a very different culture than PepsiCo? How do we succeed, or how do we enable PepsiCo to succeed and disrupt different parts of our value chain? So that's what we do on a day-to-day.
We will watch the video, and then I will follow up with some further questions about the overall mission on the broader private sector and corporate world that PepsiCo Lab wants to innovate the approaches of also, I assume, other companies work and contribute to the tech industry and innovation industry. Let me see if I can share my screen, and I think we are ready to go.
In a world of rapidly changing technology, collaborating with innovative, forward-thinking startups will play a critical role in future-proofing PepsiCo's business, helping us be faster, stronger, and better. To be a good collaborator, it required embracing agility and creative thinking to push the boundaries of how we do business. The solution? PepsiCo Labs. Our goal: to pilot and scale the best startup solutions that will help drive PepsiCo's business. To do so, We collaborate with leaders across PepsiCo, incorporating an inclusive approach as we zero in on critical business challenges and opportunities. We then cast a wide net across our external network of VCs and startups to ensure we are identifying promising solutions worth testing. Continuing our collaboration with the PepsiCo business owners, we rapidly pilot these technologies, making sure that our internal teams are getting exactly the right solution for their need. Then we take the successful ones to worldwide scale with speed and efficiency. So far, we have launched over 100 pilots globally, with solutions being scaled across all sectors in PepsiCo, including supply chain, marketing, manufacturing, DX, and insights, proving that we aren't just dipping our toes into new technology. We are investing in capabilities and high-tech infrastructure that will power future transformations. Join us and be a part of that transformation. And together, we will define PepsiCo's future.
My first question on that is, how did you select the areas, the sections where you want to collaborate? Like you mentioned, the video mentioned supply chains. What are the other areas, if we can identify them, and be a little bit more detailed about what is the purpose of selecting this particular area compared to another area, and how this selection has been made. Anna?
Thank you. So I'm not sure if many know, but a few fun facts about PepsiCo. Our value chain is massive. We are integrated fully end-to-end, starting with the potato seed all the way down to the retail store, and that includes manufacturing, fleet, warehousing, consumer, frontline, etc. So really very broad. So your question is great, because we do have a lot of topics, different areas to choose from. And the way we actually define where we go after is business priorities. We are integrated into the corporate strategy, and based on what the business, what PepsiCo as a company wants to drive, we partner with the business to make sure that we identify those specific needs within that area and move forward.
Jenny?
I think if I could add one thing to that, definitely anchored on our priority business needs. So we're very focused as we engage with the VC startup ecosystem, because, you know, we don't want to go out there and see everything, as Anna mentioned. I think in addition to priorities, the other overlay is understanding where we think emerging startup solutions can really move the needle for us. In some areas, it might make sense to partner with some of our more established tech partners, or even consider building some solutions internally. But definitely in certain areas, startups are really at the forefront of bleeding, you know, cutting edge technology. And we want to make sure we're tapping into that in the most effective way in those areas.
I must say that someone who hasn't been following the history and the development of PepsiCo could be a little bit surprised of how a company like PepsiCo has been investing, let's say, on sustainability. We had another program a few months ago on sustainable and regenerative agriculture. Now we learned that you also have another scope of interest and attention on innovation. My question is, why a company like PepsiCo, a huge international company, would take the decision to make this shift of investing on something that the average consumer potentially could ever even think that exists, unless learn from you about all this important work. Why you think a company like PepsiCo and any other company is important to think about investing in innovation, tech industry, technology? Jenny?
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. I think we get that question a lot. Like, Pepsi is not a tech company. Why are you so obsessed with tech innovation? And, you know, if I think about the time that I've been with PepsiCo, I've now been with PepsiCo for quite a while. And the way we think about innovation has evolved so much. When I joined PepsiCo 18 years ago, when we talked about innovation, it was almost always about product innovation, the new flavor, the new brand that's going to be launched. Now, when we talk about innovation, it's about the evolution of every single part of our value chain. I think for any company in any industry today to stay at the forefront of their industry, we really need to evolve and undergo this digital transformation. So PepsiCo is, you know, and has been on this massive journey to really transform the way we do business through innovation across every area of our value chain. And the tech innovation has so much potential to really change the way we do things and equip us for the capabilities that we need to continue to stay at the forefront of our industry. That's why we're so, maniacally focused on making sure that we are innovating in the right way.
Anna, would you like to add something on that?
Yeah, I think so. Great answer. Yes. And I think for any company, big or small, innovation is a must. It's not a nice to have, right? Because consumer needs, and especially for us being a very consumer focused kind of centric company, consumer needs are evolving. Just think of everything we went through COVID, right? How that changed the landscape of making, moving, selling products. Our needs have evolved. And this is not unique because we've been on this path. Technology is really revolutionizing a lot of what we do. The pace keeps increasing. For us to be relevant, for us to keep supplying and to keep answering our consumers' needs, we have to just increase the pace, right? There's no going back. And startups are at the forefront because they are more innovative by nature. They are at the bleeding edge, like Jenny said, and we need to find a way to partner with them. Otherwise, we'll be left behind.
Mm-hmm.
If I could just add, sorry, Thanos, one more thing to that. I think, and just building upon what Anna said, I think, we need to continue pushing on efficiency, productivity, simplifying our business, but also consumer expectations are evolving and changing all the time as well. Consumers want greater relevance in a much more personalized way. So if we keep just doing things the way we used to do things, we're not going to be able to meet consumer expectations. And that's the whole mission of our company, right? To bring every smile, to bring more smiles with every sip and bite. So in that consumer-centric way, we need to continue evolving to serve our consumers too.
And do you see that this approach, this philosophy of how you are trying to meet your consumer demands through innovation and investment in innovation, do you think that this is the general practice or approach or philosophy in the private sector on other companies, or you think PepsiCo has a little bit more, it has been a little bit more in the front line of this philosophy from a broader point of view? Or do you think it's missing this philosophy from other stakeholders of the private sector? Would you like to see something more? Jenny?
We're a little bit biased probably in our answer. So we'd like to say that PepsiCo is on the forefront and the leading side. I mean, I definitely think that PepsiCo has really prioritized this focus on tech and digital transformation. So I would like to think that we're kind of on that end of the spectrum. We do see other companies making huge efforts in this space, and people and companies have taken different approaches. If you think about, especially where we focus, which is the tech startup ecosystem, the way companies are trying to tap into it and harness the power of it in the most effective way. Different companies are taking different approaches, and I think it's like different things are working for different companies. But we've defined what works for us, and that's kind of what makes some of the secret sauce of PepsiCo Labs. And that's how we've shaped how we engage with this ecosystem.
Mm-hmm. Anna, before I follow up on that, would you like to add anything?
No, I think Jenny had a perfect answer. I think there's no one size fits all, right? We all have different needs. We have different objectives to doing innovation, right? Some companies will do it to put bets on Horizon 3 needs. Some will do it to be an employer of choice and reputation. So there's multiple reasons. And each has a very unique approach. I think thanks to a lot of support from PepsiCo, and we've had great partnership from our leaders on driving this innovation and enabling kind of a smooth sailing for us. I think we found that secret sauce. So we found the model that works for PepsiCo to propel and transform. So I hope we're doing a good job. I want to say, I hope we're the best. We're the best for us.
What is the process of deciding what is the direction you need to take? What are the innovative approaches you need to apply on your work? Like how you make how is this decision making on what you do takes place? What is the process? If we can have some information, some insight on the process. Jenny?
I'll start, but Anna can definitely add. So the process itself is actually somewhat of our secret sauce because each process step is really designed to harness the whole power of our business and bring us all together as we engage with this ecosystem. So one key element is the fact that we are very much anchored on business needs. We talked about different approaches that different companies have taken in engaging with the startup ecosystem. Some tend to have, venture innovation arms that are quite separate from the business, and they're more motivated by finding the right investments that drive financial return. We're on somewhat of the other end of the spectrum. We're very strategic and looking for solutions that can really move the needle for the core of our business. So we define our needs upfront, partnering very closely with our business leaders. So say, for example, if I'm doing a program in marketing, we'll work across the marketing organization, top down, bottom up, across all the global sectors to understand what it is that we're trying to solve for. Then we engage with the ecosystem to make sure that we're quickly understanding what's driving innovation in those spaces, which startups are at the forefront of some of these areas. And then we run through a process where we can find, together with our business leaders, a small subset of solutions that we can test rapidly in market, and then identify the couple that we can then scale up across our business. And so it's a very systematic, but a holistic effort that runs across our company, but also, we're very much focused on finding the best startups in the most efficient way, to avoid random kind of ad hoc siloed experiments in different areas of our business, but streamlining it so that we lead to an ultimate outcome in the fastest possible way. And I'm sure you have a lot to add too.
No, I think you covered it. All I can do is summarize. So identify the problem, scout for the right solution, test to see if it works in a real world environment, and then implement and scale the successful one. So 4 simple steps. Key is we're strategy back. So it is not about shiny toy buzzwords, who wants the latest blockchain or whatever, tech buzzword of the day. It is more about what the business needs, what will drive the needle, and then solving for that.
And Anna, what is the process of identifying what are the startups that can be a good match of what you are doing, how you are testing the process of partnering with startups, and actually what is the substantial support you are offering, if you do offer some sort of support to startups, and how do you measure the impact you're making in this partnership with startups? A lot of questions, but I think we can explore all aspects between you and Jenny. Anna?
Perfect. So happy to start, Jenny, so feel free to add. I think, so if we go back, strategy first, right? Identify the problem. Now, if you've identified the problem, you already know, or you are able to assess back of the envelope, what will be the business impact, right? How strategic is this? And you also know what are the critical KPIs you want to address. What business criteria are you trying to make? What are you optimizing for, right? So this is kind of basic project management. As you go into this, what are you even testing? Then if you have the requirements, you know what you're looking for, it is much easier to scout for that in the world of startups, because we have thousands and thousands of startups. If you know what you want to solve for, you can find the right match. And we have a filtering process. We start with hundreds, but again, looking at the criteria, we zoom in to the most relevant ones. It takes us months. It's not fast. It's not kind of easy, but we have a model of how do we zoom in. We find, let's say, 10 startups that are the best fit, again, against the defined needs that we want to pilot, and then we go into pilots. And each pilot has a team from kind of PepsiCo Labs, but also multifunctional needs, business experts, anybody that needs to support that. And we define the criteria, success criteria going in. So at the end of the pilot, it is very easy to say, yes, no. Did we deliver on what we expected, or we did not? Because the worst thing that can happen is if you feel this was a failure, but the startup thinks they did a great job. So we go into this knowing what is the expectation, and then the decision post-pilot is easy. It should be very simple, right? Did we achieve the change and the transformation, or we did not? And how will the scale look like?
Vanessa Zaklis, White House correspondent, is asking me here, what if you find the startups or the startups find you? Like, how is the process of connecting with each other?
Both. So our needs, we try to be as vocal as possible with our needs. We share them on our LinkedIn, we share them on our website. We reach out proactively to startups and VCs and innovation organizations. We talk on stages like this stage, sharing our problems, because we want everyone to know them. If we don't If we don't ask for help, we're not going to get it. So we also have a contact list on our website. So both. We do our own proactive research. We filter and talk to companies that reach out to us. We're very open.
Jenny, would you like to add something?
Yeah, just a couple of things. So in terms of how we engage with the ecosystem, we've, throughout the last 4 or 5 years that PepsiCo Labs has been built, we've established a very broad ecosystem of VCs, accelerators, startups, other leaders in the ecosystem for that. With each program and with each set of needs that we have, we're proactively reaching out on those, in addition to all the other areas that Anna talked about of how we communicate our needs. Thanos, one of your questions was around how do we help the startups? And I think that's a critical one, because another reason for being for PepsiCo Labs is that, it's not easy for a startup to work with a corporation. I know everybody who I've talked to who is involved in a startup, a founder or, someone who's employed, talks about how painful it can be to work with some corporations because, we have processes, things take a while, we have matrix organizations. On the flip side, if you talk to corporations, they'll say it's not necessarily easy to work with a startup. They don't understand how enterprises work, how decisions are made, who the stakeholders are. So we're in that middle to try and unify the language between both. We help the startup navigate the world of PepsiCo. Often a decision, a pilot might involve many different stakeholders. And because we know the organization, the way we work, we know exactly how to funnel those conversations. And then for the startup, we help to run things much more quickly. We talked a little bit about the process, but what we've built is an ability to test solutions quickly. So a lot of corporations kind of get stuck trying to pilot a solution because they have to go through, their InfoSec requirements, IT, legal, etc. So we've set up a rapid pilot process where we can get a pilot up and going quickly. So we're not taking 6 to 9 months trying to put a 3-month pilot together. So those are some of the ways that we're really enabling this capability and helping the startup, but also helping PepsiCo figure out how to work with these startups.
Alex Rauhoglu is asking me to tell you if you can tell us what is the successful example of a startup that you can share publicly and that has been working with you and that has been tested over the years as a successful example. And also my follow-up on that is, for how long do you partner with each startup? Is there any timeline? Is there any circles, rounds that can be updated? Jenny?
Well, we did have a video, I'm not sure, Thanos, if you have it, of an example of a company that we've successfully piloted and are now scaling throughout our business. And I think that's on a manufacturing example, and then I can give a commercial example as well. So whichever way you want to kind of order that.
Can you describe it? Yeah.
So I can jump in for the manufacturing example.
Yeah.
One of the companies that was actually featured in the previous video, but assuming you're not reliability managers, I'll try to explain the need in simple words. Sometimes our machines break, right? You want to make sure that they don't break in the middle of operation when they're not supposed to break. So same as with your personal car, you want to make sure you fix every problem when you go into the scheduled appointment in the garage and not outside of that, because that will mean you're stuck on the side of the road. But machines do break sometimes, and that costs a lot of money and disrupts our supply chain. And what Agori, a company we've partnered with, does is it listens. It listens to the sound, vibration, heat, different parameters on our manufacturing line on the most critical equipment, and it alerts. So if it says, this sounds a bit strange, you need to look into that in the next maintenance window. Right? And by that, we were able to eliminate our what we call unplanned downtime. So that is a technical term, unplanned downtime to 0. Right? So you can kind of imagine the impact on our value chain. And in terms of the partnership, it started with testing in one food site in North America and then expanded to 3 sites. And then very quickly, once we saw it was working, we wanted to roll this out as fast as we can. So it is already across all of North America food business, which is about 40 manufacturing sites, rolling into the North America beverage, which is a bit more than that, so about 60 sites, and expanding into Europe. It's already in 2 sites in the UK, expanding to Latin America, expanding to Australia. So we take that partnership, that solution that was tested on a small scale, because a lot of what PepsiCo Labs does is we want to test it fast, right? To test it fast on one manufacturing line. And then if it works, test it a bit more. So will it work on 3 or 4 manufacturing lines? But if it does, then the requirement is we need hundreds, we need thousands of assets to be monitored. And PepsiCo Labs kind of partners with both the startup and the business each step of the way. We work with the startup on the initial pilot, but then we also work with the businesses to make sure that we can take that across.
Jenny, would you like to add?
Yeah, I'd love to give an example on the commercial side, which is where I focus as well. So actually, we've got a number of solutions highlighted on our website. So maybe with the follow-up, we can send our link to our website and people can look through that. So one example on the commercial side is a marketing solution we're leveraging. It actually came in through last year's program. So we're just finishing up the pilot and then, getting into scale up planning. But so far it's been really exciting. So it's a marketing solution called Rembrandt, which does virtual product placement in already produced content. So imagine if you or your children are looking at your favorite creator on, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. You might see a virtual placement of a poster of a bubbly can in the background of someone dancing, or on the table, you might see a Starry can or a Pepsi can, being animated. And the problem here that we were trying to solve is that, the way we all consume content has changed so much, right, over the last 10 plus years and continues to evolve at a rapid rate. So it's more important than ever for our brands to appear in front of consumers in relevant and engaging ways. If we think about the power of influencer marketing, I think we all recognize, and I personally am very influenced by influencers too in terms of my purchasing behavior. But as an industry, it's really grown rapidly. Like last year, I think 20 billion was spent on influencer marketing, which is triple what it was in 2019. If you look at the projections, it's going to multiply many times over in the next 6 years to 2030, I think somewhere in the range of 7 times. But the challenge for us is that the way influencer marketing works, if you think about it, is quite labor intensive and manual. Even if we use agencies, you've got to get the product in the hands of the influencers. You've got to coordinate about how it's going to be integrated. So it was only really possible for brands like PepsiCo's to engage with the biggest influencers, the celebrity influencers with many millions of followers. But that left that whole world of what they call macro and micro influencers with 1 million followers or 100,000 followers or a few 100,000 that we couldn't really tap into in an effective way. And often these are very lucrative audiences because they're smaller communities, but they're highly engaged, really avid followers. So we really wanted to tap into that. What Rembrandt's technology enables us to do is to access that content. So because we can say, these are our custom audiences, we want to buy this type of media, and then it can be done programmatically to insert that content. So we're really excited about this technology because it's opening up a whole new space of content that we hadn't previously been able to access. And going into the future, we're looking at how to make these placements shoppable, so leaning into social commerce, which is another huge trend, as well as personalized. So if you think about the data signals of who's watching what, we could potentially serve a different product placement into content that I'm watching versus what Anna might be watching, because we might have different preferences for different products. So these are all on theme for big initiatives within the marketing organization. So really excited about this solution. And
from the point of view of the interest of PepsiCo, can you give us an example or an answer for someone to understand what is the value for PepsiCo itself investing in these innovative approaches, startups? Like, okay, it makes an impact. It partners with several innovators from the startup industry. But practically speaking, and from the business point of view, are there any answers of what is the interest of PepsiCo following this path and this philosophy and this approach? Anna, Jenny, who would like to?
Yeah, I can start. I think it's the business impact, right? So in the example of Agori preventive maintenance, we prevented our lines from breaking unexpectedly, right? That is a critical business criteria. It's one of the key criteria we measure when we look at our manufacturing performance, right? Unplanned downtime. Same for other examples. And by the way, if anybody wants examples, we can follow up. We have multiple. Antwerp is an agriculture company that transforms from flood irrigation to drip irrigation at a very low cost. We are able to save over 50% of the water in our potato fields and increase yield by up to 17%, I think it was in the last results. We, by that, secure the livelihood of our farmers, of their small communities. We have better yield, use less water, less chemicals. So everybody benefits. PepsiCo, because we rely on that potato supply, we need potatoes so we can make more products to support our growth. Farmers have a more sustainable, and we all know water is scarce. Farming is, an unexpected field. We help our farmers to become more stable, and by that, their communities. So everybody benefits. It's kind of just a few small examples, but it goes back to, we start with business impact, right? We're not working with startups because we like them. We like them, but we're not doing that just because, they're cute. We do this because we want to drive business impact, and with their help, we can drive it globally. And this is where we help them as well. We help them to have a global influence.
Jenny?
Yeah, no, I think it's very much in line with what Anna said. So, it's definitely about the business impact. So, while we can't necessarily talk about specific numbers here, we're constantly projecting out, at scale what these startups mean to our business, and then tracking like what actually gets executed as we scale up these solutions. So it's significant. And, the reason why we continue to do this is that it does really move the needle for PepsiCo in terms of top line and bottom line, whether it's financial results or sustainability results that are in line with our PEP positive goals. So that's a huge reason. I mentioned before, we mentioned that different companies have taken different approaches engaging with the startup ecosystem. Some are very motivated by making investments and getting those financial returns aside from their core business. We, again, are very much anchored on our strategic business. So it's about driving business results in our core business. And, if there's any investment made, it's much more geared towards how we achieve our strategic objectives.
And are there any minimum requirements for startups to apply or to pursue a partnership with you? Do you have a minimum level of requirements, for example, testing their operations for a certain period of time, like how fresh and how young a startup can be in order to have the aspiration to partner with you or be part of what you are doing?
Jenny, go ahead.
Oh, Jenny, Anna.
I can start. I think, what has worked really well over the past 4 or 5 years is startups that are slightly more mature in the sense they have a product that's been proven in market, and, starting to get some enterprise customers and are really looking for that scaled growth. Because, we were looking for solutions that we could test, but with the view of scaling some of these solutions up. So, in terms of startup, the way they usually define funding rounds. So that kind of pre-seed is probably a little bit too early for us. So our sweet spot tended to be kind of Series A and beyond. I think there is an opportunity for earlier stage startups if they really have a differentiated technology that is critical for PepsiCo, and we're willing to work with some of those earlier stage startups. But for the majority of startups that have engaged in our program and our scaling, they tended to be a little bit more mature.
Anna, would you like to add something on that?
Yeah, I think it's perfect. We want to pilot today, scale tomorrow. You need to be able to support PepsiCo scale very fast. And again, a few opportunities where we would consider going earlier that are highly strategic, but for the bulk of it, you need to be able to support the large PepsiCo scale very fast.
And there is a lot.
Sorry, one thing to add, Thanos, though. I think in some cases, though, we've partnered with the startup to co-develop solutions as well. So it's not necessary that they come in with a whole suite of solutions that we would love to have. Sometimes they come in with a core capability and a core product. And then we feel like our industry experts, the business people that we pull in, who are the subject matter experts, can actually even contribute to the future product pipeline of that startup. So there have been very successful examples where we've started working with startups and co-created sometimes with some of those to advance the needs for PepsiCo, but also the capabilities of the startup as well.
And these co-created innovations are shared between PepsiCo and the startup, or becomes like ownership of the startup? How does, if we can have an understanding of how this works in case, because this is interesting, of how you co-create something and help startup create an aspect of their product or their business, how does it continue once it is created?
Yeah, it's really on a case-by-case basis. So with each startup, the context is different in each case, and we structure the right. And that's another thing that PepsiCo Labs leads, is the negotiation of the partnership agreement.
Okay.
We aim to form strategic partnerships. And I think, as Anna and I and our team think about some of the opportunities and advantages of working with startups, is that there's really a big advantage to structure a partnership that creates it sounds cliche, but a win-win situation for both of us. So, by partnering, we can often increase the total size of the prize for both of us, right? So we're creating a bigger opportunity, a bigger, business opportunity, even beyond PepsiCo. So there's, potential opportunity for both of us to share in that.
So I assume you also have, besides all other skills, you also have to have good negotiating skills.
Which is a
Yes,
great
we
skill
do.
to have in life in general. The best negotiators are my kids.
Particularly helps with your kids and your husband.
What are the other segments of PepsiCo that you directly work with or are dependent on you? Like, for example, the sustainability or regenerative agriculture section of PepsiCo. Is it something that you interact with, or other areas that you could share with us?
I can start. We are very broad. We work with agriculture, with similar to the NDRIP example, the water irrigation company. Through mobility, we worked very closely with our fleet team. I'm not sure if many people know, PepsiCo has a very large fleet. We actually own and operate the largest private fleet of vehicles in the world, which makes us experts in trucks, right? Because we need to support our own fleet. So anything truck related, electrification, autonomy, etc., we're at the forefront. I'm sure many of you have seen, our Tesla trucks and a lot of efforts that we're putting there. We're the first ones to actually get Tesla Class 8 trucks. And we are at the forefront of electrifying vehicles in general, moving into warehouse and automation, and then manufacturing capabilities, moving into consumer and retail, anything from consumer insights to digital marketing, content creation in a smarter way, to kind of partnering with a customer retail, which is what Jenny leads. So across the board, there is no function that we don't touch, probably, even with our support functions. When you think of HR and IT and finance, right? The functions that support PepsiCo across the board, we work with them on capabilities as well. So we have the best job.
So you're the team of PepsiCo that is one of the most useful teams, from my understanding.
Yes, ROI per head is very high.
I'm interested to learn a little bit more about the electrification process of your vehicles. There is a lot of discussion about the electric vehicles and the latest developments on electric vehicle industry. How far have you been on saying that most of your vehicle-related aspects of your business has been electrified? It works with electrification technology. How far or how away you are from, and what is your goal, if you have like any particular goal?
Yeah, we do. We have a goal. So the biggest driver of emissions in our supply chain is our fleet, because it is so big, and we have a very ambitious goal. We have committed publicly to drive a zero emission fleet by 2040, which is not a lot of years from now. To do that, we have multiple strategies. The main strategy is electrification. So we are working with anything from Class A to smaller trucks. We have electrified already a significant portion of our fleet, and we've been doing that for years. I know electrification is a buzzword. We've had electric truck for the last 20 years. And we are working with, working on infrastructure, working on grants. So a lot of kind of multiple efforts there in parallel, because we know we won't be able to electrify fully by 2040 for multiple reasons. Because when you think of, our longest routes beyond 500 miles in Central America, the infrastructure is not there. So our interim strategy is biodiesel. So that's another PepsiCo Labs project, a company called Optimus, that helps us upgrade our existing diesel trucks to run on biodiesel, which is a sustainable source of diesel. And that helps us eliminate our emissions by over 90% on those long-term routes that cannot be electrified. And we already have So if I jump to a PepsiCo Labs, how we work with startup example, we started with testing 4 trucks. It was, we saw it worked, we liked it. By the end of that same year, we bought 200 trucks. And by the end of 2024, we'll buy another 300 trucks. So we move very fast.
Jenny, would you like to add something on that?
Oh, that's more Anna's field, so I'll leave it up with her answer.
Patricia Vasconcelos is asking me to tell us if you can share any way that you work with media and reporters and journalists. Is this the department that you work directly, or other ways that you can share?
So we have corporate comms who support us, PepsiCo corporate kind of communications team. I think we can share the details of Jessica, who is on the line, and the other hand. And
what we will do is, because we're going to have the follow-up article, and we will share also the content with those who are participating through the Melon app, I can share all the information.
Yeah. So we're happy to continue the dialogue. We are happy to share the story of PepsiCo, because that will give us more great startups to work with and will expand our reach. So if any follow-ups, reach out to Jessica.
Yeah, we would love follow-ups, actually. And as Anna said, like, the more people who know about what we do within PepsiCo and the areas that we're focused on, we can engage with the right investors, the right startups, and find the best ones for PepsiCo. So we would love to talk more if anyone's interested.
Do you have like any big events or summits or conferences or in-person initiatives where you have a strong presence and it's the way?
We just had it last week, so I just came back yesterday
from
from Manifest, which is a supply chain conference. And Laura Maxwell, one of our COOs, so the COO of North America, was a keynote on stage, and we had a big presence. What is the next one?
We have Shop Talk coming up, which is going to be in Vegas, which is more on the commercial side. So again, PepsiCo Labs will be there in a pretty significant way, as with PepsiCo. So we're constantly looking across the external ecosystem, what conferences make sense for us to attend and be visible, speakers at.
We talked a little bit. We talked a lot about the positive aspects and the impact and the achievements and accomplishments and the expansion. Let's talk a little bit about the negative aspects, which is, are there any negative aspects, meaning in terms of frustration, in terms of disappointment in your work, in the process, or in terms of the timeline? Is it maybe it can be a very bureaucratic process that can take slower pace than you would like to have in terms of seeing substantial results? You tell me if this is any case for you, and we would like to learn a little bit more about the difficult aspect, the challenges.
We're perfect. We're perfect. No, I'm kidding. Nobody's perfect. But we always I think by nature, the people on our team, they have various kind of backgrounds, but they are all dissatisfied with the status quo in a healthy way. So we are always trying to push the company. Luckily, PepsiCo has been also letting us push it. So we keep evolving. We keep, improving our process. We are a startup within PepsiCo. We are, we need to keep evolving our model to touch more and more functions, more and more startups, more and more kind of business owners, a breadth of moving from established startups to earlier stage, to new business models, to co-creation. So we do a lot. We expand a lot. We are never satisfied with what we do, but that is already building on a lot of impact we are proud of. So until in the last 5.5 years, go ahead.
No, I'll just add a little bit to that. I think we've been hugely pleasantly surprised by the appetite for change in the company. So we've been received with, very open arms in a lot of different organizations. So that's been awesome. And, as with any other job, there are days when it's frustrating. And, PepsiCo is a large company. We have a very heavily matrixed organization. So navigating that is definitely a huge challenge, and it has been learnings for all of us. I think the other thing Anna touched on, which I would love to reiterate, is we want to operate like the disruptors in the business, a startup within PepsiCo. So what we talked about today is really what we've built and established over the past 5 years. What we want to do in the next 5 years is totally different. So we've got a vision, we've got different things, and we don't need to go into detail today, but to constantly evolve how we want to engage with this ecosystem in the most effective way for Pepsi.
No, we would like
and it might not just
we would like to hear from you, Jenny, and Anna, a little bit of what is the prospect of the next 5 years, if you can define it in a very generic way or a more detailed way.
We're still
Not
ideating,
gonna let
so
it
I
go
won't
like
go
that.
into
You mentioned it,
too
so
much
I would like to
Yeah.
have.
Yeah, but I mean, every time we meet we go to these conferences to be visible, but also to engage with others in the whole ecosystem. And every time we talk with other corporate innovators, VCs, startups, we think about different ways. So how do we partner potentially with other companies in a way that brings innovation to both of our companies, whether we're existing partners or not? How do we potentially fund with investors? How do we potentially partner with investors? And then co-creation and incubation, creating new business models. These are all ideas we're kind of iterating on. So more to come in this space.
Yeah, without getting us in trouble, with corporate PepsiCo. I think when you think of our North Star, so our North Star is always to address PepsiCo's evolving critical needs, right? And we do whatever it takes to solve that specific need. Now, that sometimes means partnering with a specific type of startups. We have our core model, which is more mature solutions that works amazingly across the board. We do close to 100 pilots a year. Now, sometimes you need to go earlier to solve a strategic need because the solution do not exist. Or sometimes you need to go later and think beyond the box of how do you integrate new business models, and more to come in the future, right? So we do whatever it takes. That's why our model is very flexible by nature.
There is a lot of discussion and noise and developments on the area of artificial intelligence. Is there somehow affect what you're doing, or have this innovative technological development of artificial intelligence impact your strategic plans?
Definitely. At a PepsiCo-wide level, we think there is a lot of potential in AI broadly and generative AI. And so, our leaders have been out speaking about our responsible AI framework and how we're bringing in AI to all of our different use cases in a way that really moves the needle for us, but at the same time minimizes risk. I know definitely in the areas that I'm looking at across commercial spaces, including marketing, where looking at how AI and in instances, generative AI can really help increase the efficiency and speed of what we're doing today. Not necessarily to, automate fully things that we're doing today, but to really enhance how our, colleagues are all working. So there are some really exciting solutions that we're testing right now, and excited to see how they evolve.
Anna, would you like to add something on that? Or
No, I think AI is, it's been creating a lot of hype recently, but it's been around for 20 years. And you know that you cannot build a startup without having AI in your tagline, right? So every company we work with has AI somewhere in their tagline. We work with different stages of AI. Some of them are more simple models, some are Gen AI, really bleeding edge type of work. And as a company, we really want to be at the forefront. So we're developing, like Jenny said, the responsible AI framework. We are kind of testing this across the board in multiple use cases. So we're not afraid of AI.
For 2024, is there any particular goal that you definitely need to accomplish, that you have it as your priority?
As PepsiCo Labs,
Mm-hmm.
we have so many.
The most important, two most important ones, the two highest level priorities.
I can speak kind of on my behalf. Jenny, tell me if you,
Yeah,
because we kind of separate as kind of two different teams. So for my team on the operational side, number one priority is to expand into a new incubation model, which means we are able to solve some of the most critical strategic needs that are Horizon 2 and 3 that will be critical in 5-10 years out, which is a whole new different operating model, right? Going into early stage, etc. So we'll solidify that and build that into a working model. And then the second is we are expanding within PepsiCo to new areas, right? So we are expanding into 2 new functions, manufacturing and procurement, and then also expanding geographically. We are building our developing markets approach, which is very different from our developed markets. So how do we activate and operate in developing markets with their specific needs? So those are the 2 key things.
Yeah. And same with me on the expansion around geographic coverage and some of the capabilities across different functional areas. One thing I would add is we're very focused. So it's not just about finding the right startups and testing them, but we're also very focused on making sure that we then scale them, because we don't get that, we talked about the business impact. We don't deliver business impact until these solutions are operationalized in our business. And often that is the hardest part, driving change within a big company and scaling these solutions. We don't necessarily own the scale up as a team of, a small group. It's really the business and function owners, but PepsiCo Labs is in there supporting them through that journey as well. So a huge priority on 24 in landing and scaling some of these solutions, as well as some of the expansion areas that Anna talked about. Oh, and for me in my area, we'd also like to evolve our model to think about bringing this capability to some of our partners. So as we think about our customers in the retail space or in our away from home with restaurants and hospitality, as we mentioned before, all corporations need to innovate. Everyone is out there trying to innovate. How do we unite our efforts so that we lead to a bigger and better outcome for both of us? So that's another key challenge.
And as we conclude this conversation and program, I would like to have a little bit of more personal question for each one of you. I see you, Jenny, you've been with PepsiCo almost more than 16 years, 17 years. Since you started working at PepsiCo, how has this process of long-term engagement and work and career in PepsiCo has transformed you or advanced your skills or change your horizons and the way that you are looking things in the corporate world? Would you like to give us a little bit of more?
Yeah, definitely. I've been really fortunate in PepsiCo to have had roles that I've really loved. I haven't followed necessarily a traditional career trajectory in terms of, being very function specific. I've always taken roles that I thought were challenging, building upon the skills I'd already developed, but then developing those further. So, starting from M&A, then moving into different areas of the business through strategy and finance and innovation. I have to admit that the current role that I have is probably the most fun. I've had a lot of fun and learnings along the way, but this has been a huge fun but also a learning experience in terms of how well we need to understand PepsiCo, but also engaging with the external ecosystem in an effective way. And PepsiCo has been a huge, PepsiCo is definitely a huge supporter of making sure that, people are shaping their career path in a way that makes sense for them. And the people here are amazing. So that's kind of why it's been hard to leave.
And Anna, for you that you served, from what I saw on your career background, you've served in several boards of, I assume it is for startup companies or companies. I would like to learn more a little bit about your board membership engagement with different organizations like companies and how this experience has been proved valuable to your current role over the last 6 years.
So my background is CPGS. I was with Procter & Gamble many years. So I understand the business side. And I think that's also unique to our team. We're not just techies. We know the business. We were there in the front line, which helps us engage with our current business kind of counterparts, right? We understand their problems. And I think that was a great experience because I've learned with my finance and strategy background, I've learned the business from all of its elements. So it's a fully rounded experience of, from marketing, small markets, big markets, new brands, etc. And I think all of this, coupled with most of my board experience comes from kind of previous roles, which gives you a whole different perspective, right? The conversation that happens at the board level is very different from the conversation people see when they're kind of hands-on. So I actually love combining both. And again, perfect role. I don't see myself moving to any other job anywhere, which is a big, bold statement, but it is. We have so much support from PepsiCo to keep disrupting and keep growing and evolving, and all with a massive scale, and all with the ability to influence the broader PepsiCo machine. And
I should ask the last question. If someone wants to come to work with you, who has a background in tech industry or corporate world or marketing, communications, innovation, whatever experience you feel it is applicable to what you need, how do you evaluate a person who is knocking your door, submit his bio resume, apply for a position? What are the major principles you are looking for your team members? Jenny and Anna?
I'll start with a few, but Anna, please add. I think, of course, we look for all the right capabilities in terms of, understanding the business, having some ability to apply strategic frameworks. But in terms of personal characteristics, I think someone who's, willing to be the disruptor, who's action-oriented, who's willing to think creative. I think creativity is a huge factor, because often we hit roadblocks and you've got to think about, how do I do this a different way? Because, a lot of what we're doing hasn't been done before. So we're kind of establishing not new norms, but new ways of doing things. And we hit a lot of roadblocks. And so we've got to think, okay, how do I tackle this differently? How do I get around this? Can I approach it a different way? So I think creativity is a key one as well.
And I guess I would add to that, being comfortable with ambiguity, because every role is a new role, right? We are not a kind of function that keeps, when I come from a finance background, when I started as a financial analyst, I was one of thousands of financial analysts all having the same job description. And then you move on, somebody else takes your role. Our job description do not exist. Literally every time we hire, like, okay, we rewrite it, and the person coming in has to build this role from scratch. So they need to be very comfortable with learning on the job, building the plane in the air, very little guidance because nobody knows where it's going to be. But that helps you, or that is your place to leave your fingerprints, because what you will design will be your role eventually.
Unfortunately, we're running out of time, but if I had more time, we could continue this conversation for at least 1 more hour. But I would like to have you back, and I hope we can have your promise that at some point we could have a startup company, some representatives of startup world that you work with, and have you with them in an in-person event. Hopefully you can travel either in New York City or Washington, D.C. and continue our conversation.